Hey, travelers, it's Sparks Valentine here with
Erica Nerdy Yogi.
and
And Foxfires.
and welcome to Dice and Dish, the tabletop RPG roundtable discussion podcast, where the three of us are going along on travels, talking about three different topics every episode, and meet some interesting adventures along the way that we bring into our silly discussions. So we really hope that you enjoy the episode and that you continue along the travel with us. So I guess we'll see you along the road. Erica, roll that dice.
Okay. Oh, that dice ASMR. It is Sparks.
All right. So my topic is, how often do you think about your characters? Whether that's like maybe when you're a DM, an NPC that you've created, because you consider those, I mean, they're non-player characters. So like think about those. Do you think about your player characters if you're playing in a game? Just kind of like, how often do you think about them? Like, in what sense? Do you just think about like one before your session, or do you think about them like, the week prior? How do you think about them? Do you just think of like what they're gonna do, like their purpose the next time you play them, or anything like that? I think about mine kind of often. I always try to think of new fun ways, like what I can do with them. So, Erica, what do you think?
So, are you talking about? So, I just wanted to clarify. Are you talking about like how often do we think about characters we're currently playing, or characters that we've played in the past?
You can do either
Either
or.
way.
Just
Okay,
characters in general.
Okay, that was the only thing that because so like, how often do I think about the characters that I'm currently playing? So I'm currently on my off Fridays that I'm not running Dungeon Crawl Classics. I'm playing in the new Marvel RPG. I think they call it Marvel Multiverse or what. I don't know. It's the new Marvel RPG,
Yeah.
right? And I am thinking a lot about it because I'm playing Storm. I finally have we've gotten to rank 4. We were rank 3 and I played Squirrel Girl. I missed rank 1 and 2 because I was away for work. But so I've come in kind of like, I don't want to say late because the book is pretty decently sized, but I've come in at rank 3 and I thought about Squirrel Girl just a little bit. She was a lot of fun. I don't really know much about her. I'm not a big Marvel comic book person. I do like comic books, but I usually don't read about superheroes. I usually read about just other types of topics. Like my favorite is Saga. But Storm I've thought a lot about because the new X-Men animated show, X-Men 97 on
Yeah, the
Disney
new one.
is out,
Yeah.
and I've been watching it, and like I don't want to say what happens to Storm in the first episode, but it made me so mad because growing up I watched the X-Men show back in the day in the 90s all the time, and I was obsessed with Storm. I thought she was the coolest like character in X-Men. I've always thought that she has been my go-to. I know everybody likes Wolverine, but to me she's way better than him.
Rogue was my favorite.
Rogue is cool
Same.
too. Yeah, but I love the whole like she reminds me of the Undertaker. Like I used to watch wrestling a lot with my Heidi Hun, and whenever, the Undertaker would come out and he'd roll his eyes in the back of his head, and it just gives me Storm vibes. Because her eyes go white when
Yeah.
she does her powers. So I've been thinking about Storm a lot. um I don't necessarily role play her probably the way she's presented in the shows or anything. I kind of put my own spin on who she is, like personality wise. But I do try to stick with she flies and the hand gestures and the eyes rolling in the back of the head and those iconic, like when you think of Storm, you have certain things you think of. So I've been thinking about her a lot. Reginald is my other character that I'm currently playing. I think about him a lot as of late because I am there was a session where his girlfriend he heard his girlfriend scream and he thought she died. And he wasn't in the room, but he felt like she was dead. And I was trying to figure out what I felt like how Reginald would react to that. And so I thought about that a lot. And I've thought about how he would react if his girlfriend is no longer present in the campaign. If, something was to happen to her. So I think because I have that emotional relationship my character does with another character, I have been thinking about them a lot and how if something was to happen to her, what he will do and how it will change him. Fox?
So this is a somewhat embarrassing topic, but I almost constantly think about something D&D related, and it's usually one of the very many characters I've created. Because I run a game and then I play in 2 games. So I'm always thinking about at least one of them. Even I'll be at work doing paperwork and it's like, oh, that'd be a cool scene to do with this character. But it just goes around in my mind thinking of their backstories and how it could come out, some possible things that could happen, just various things. Like currently in the campaign I'm running, there is a lot of craziness going on, and there's mind flayer issues that they're dealing with, and one of those issues is that some of the NPCs that they've had a good relationship with are now controlled by mind flayers. And there are some others that they're dealing with that have relationships with those that are controlled, and they just found out about this occurring. So I think about how they're going to react and how they're going to deal with it behind the scenes that the players will find out about later, and how I can bring it up in the campaign. Or whatever the players have done and how that can affect things. Because they're at a kind of a turning point that could affect the end game quite severely, depending on which directions they go, who they talk to, and how they prepare. And so I'm over here thinking, okay, this NPC will react that way, this and this, etc., and so forth. I think about Kat similarly to how Erica thinks of Reginald, because number one, she's got an emotional attachment in the campaign. So, the thought of losing Reginald would probably really make her distraught. And I also think about how she's dealing with just getting her memories back, knowing that her family is gone. She already figured it, but she's essentially gotten confirmation. She's more or less dealing with it by not dealing with it and just pushing forward. But I think about that quite a lot. And then in the campaign that I'm streaming on Kisser's channel, I think about how that character would react to situations like, for example, we're getting ready to go deal with a Fae Court issue because my character is the daughter of one of the heads. And so I think about how she's going to act in that situation when they're effectively being accused of assaulting another child of the Fae Court. So all of those things, just I think about it a lot. Or I'll hear a song and it'll make me think of, oh, that would be a cool scene to do with this character. So somewhat embarrassing because it's almost constant for me to think about, but it's true. I enjoy D&D, so my brain will go to that.
And it's our hobby, so I think the 3 of us have dedicated a lot to this hobby, so I don't think it's embarrassing at all for people that are in the hobby that are like diehard into it. So
Well, I mean, just admitting that I can be sitting and talking to somebody, and in my brain, it's like, oh, things that could happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the embarrassing part, because it's like something completely unrelated, and that's what I'm actually thinking about.
I sometimes think about, because now like it's no longer my hobby, it's kind of my job in a way. And not D&D, but like I guess making stuff for Morkborg is kind of my job now with Ragnaborg. And so it's interesting because it's like there's this like push and pull with me about it, because it's like, okay, all of my free time I used to either spend playing video games or doing stuff for tabletop roleplay games. And now it's like I do tabletop role-playing games all day, and I'm not complaining about that. Trust me, I'm not. It thrills me that I sit in front of a whiteboard and somebody paid me to build a dungeon. It brings me so much joy that I cannot explain. And then when I go home, I'm like, okay, you can't continue to D&D, right? Because that's work now. One thing that I've been kind of playing around with is like playing Marvel Crisis Protocol, because I bought it like 2 years ago and I played it really heavily with my husband. And then we started playing Marvel roleplay game. So and I'm like, oh shit, it just like all keeps, like I
But
can't
now
get
you
away
got the
from it.
minis for the Marvel RPG game though.
I know, that's what I told my DM. I was like, dude, like I do, one of the other players does, and he's like, we were playing, and we've been playing through the module that they put out or whatever, and he was like, I would need like a skyscraper and like 4 helicopters. I mean, like the battle scenes are ridiculous.
And Erica's like,
I mean,
I got it.
and I'm like, I'm like, what do you need? I don't have helicopters, but we can go to Dollar General and buy toy
some
I
helicopters.
was about to say that would
You
be
go to
Like-
Dollar
easy to
Tree.
obtain.
Get that
Like-
$1.25 helicopter.
I mean, there's no reason why you can't buy a construction pack at Walmart or Dollar Tree that kids play with and use it for, I mean, it might not be to scale or whatever, but I think it'd be cool,
It's
Yeah,
Marvel.
it'd still be cool.
Yeah. I mean, it just gives you the feel of it, but it's something that I've been, I guess, like personally wrestling with, because like my writing partner Kurt was like, it can't be all the time, Erica. And he knows I am very much, it is all the time. And he's like, you'll burn out. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, you have to find something else. I tried painting pictures for a while, but man, I get into these hyper focused, and it's like, I can't leave the painting unless it's done.
I
Completely.
feel in my very soul.
I will sit there for 10 hours and I will not do anything else until that painting is done. It's very much like, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I come into these like hyper fixation, and it's like, don't bother me, leave me alone. I barely will eat or drink or rest until it's done. It has to be done. And so I have a hard time stepping away from painting a picture because it has to be done. And so I was like, okay, this hobby, I enjoy it. I do. But it's hard for me to be able to do for an hour or two and then put the paintbrush down. So
That's yeah, I feel that so much, because I go through the same thing, and unless somebody starts talking to me, I will sit there and lose all track of time.
I
and
get
just
mad
work
if Andy
on.
bothers me.
I do
like,
too. I
He
get
comes
mad.
over. I'm like, I need to do this. And he's like, you've been sitting there for 6 hours. Maybe you should get up and do something else. And I'm like, no.
Don't touch
Yeah.
me.
Don't exactly. Like, bring me my food and drinks and leave me alone.
Yeah.
I feel that so much.
Do we have
But-
anything else?
Well, I was
Oh.
gonna say, to circle back, I will say I don't necessarily think you'll burn out, because if you love something and you're passionate about it, even if it's for work, it's not really work. So, yes, it's good to take a break and step away, but if you are still thinking about it outside of work, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Dice time.
Dice time.
Dice time. Hey, that would be a really good name for a podcast.
It would.
It's copyrighted now. You can't take it. We copyrighted.
That's right. Y'all
Dice
can't
time.
fucking take it. It's ours.
We
We're
should've
gonna
thought about
change it
that
to
before
Dice Time
Dyson
instead of
did.
Dyson
Oh
Dish.
no.
We're gonna rebrand.
We're
It's happening.
rebranding
Welcome
right now.
to Dice
We're
Time.
Dice time.
Rolling in the 615.
Rebrand.
It's my turn. So, speaking of 24/7 D&D obsession,
It works. Perfect segue.
it works perfect. It really does. The dice will provide. Hey, there's a t-shirt. I'm full of it tonight.
Hey, that's copyrighted too.
Copyrighted. Can't take it.
I'm gonna get that as a tattoo. The dice will provide. But so D&D. How do you get your D&D fix in between sessions? I know for like I brought this as a show and tell moment. Oh, show and tell on the podcast. If you're an audio listener, why the fuck aren't you watching this? Just kidding.
Still
We
listen to
appreciate-
it on the podcast network, but you should go watch it on YouTube.
we appreciate you listening. But you can also watch on YouTube and see this beautiful little box. It's Axebane's deck of mini dungeons. This is not sponsored. I bought this with my own money because no one pays me to buy stuff. I just buy it because I have a problem. It's compatible with 5e, but what it is it's a standard deck of 24 cards that generate different dungeons. So like Sparks and I actually used this to generate a dungeon for Shadow Dark.
Oh shit!
When we
Yeah, I was like, wait, that box
Yep.
looks kind of familiar. I can't see
Yep.
because I'm blind as hell. But I was like leaning for it. I was like,
I'll do the YouTube. YouTube
oh!
thing.
It's gone. It's disappearing.
Yeah, it's
There we
disappearing.
go.
There we go.
So that way
Cool.
y'all can see it. No, but I use this to play by myself. Because sometimes I just want to roll dice and go on an adventure by myself. And I'll use something like Morkborg, or like when Shadow Dark came out, I really wanted to play it and I didn't have anybody to play with me. So I played by myself. But the cool thing about it is like it has cards. Like this Joker card gives you like, you can't really see it. So like the Joker card gives you like NPCs or quest items, and then like the numbered cards give you just a room, and you can roll for like monsters and stuff. But there's also some other cards that give you quest ideas, like why you're there or whatever, and then you just generate a dungeon and you do a little dungeon crawl by yourself. That's how I get my fix. I also watch and listen. I listen to Raw, which is a Good Men Games podcast about rules as written for Dungeon Crawl Classic. I watch Talking TSR, which has Chris Doyle, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but it's also a Good Men Games podcast. They take old TSR modules and they read through them and like break them down and talk about them. I watch a lot of like D&D YouTubers. Shout out to the Dungeon Dudes. They're good guys. They have some really good content. What they've been doing, Dragonheim's awesome. And then I also listen to Weird People. I think it's called Weird People, but it's a audio podcast. And the host is really nice. I met him at GaryCon at the Cultural Exchange DCC party, and he just interviews people in the tabletop space. You kind of get to know them as a person and talk about tabletop. He's had like Michael Curtis on, and he's had a lot of the Good Men Games people on, like Jen. And recent one he did, I can't remember the guy's name because I'm horrible with names. He's an artist that does a lot of like line art. That's kind of how I get my fix. I listen to people talk about it and I play by myself. I'm looking forward to Shadow Dark whenever those rules come out from Kelsey, to see what it's like, how she envisions you to play by yourself in that system. I've just been making up my own rules for it. So Fox, what do you do?
a few things. I will work on my stuff for my campaign that I DM for. Which
Too, I
I know
forgot
Eric
about
has
that.
mentioned she does that as well when she's DM.
I forgot about that. I do that.
On the rare moments I have time, I have been playing Baldur's Gate 3. Still haven't beaten it because I don't have time to actually play it. But that is a way, because it is pretty good at fulfilling that fix. Constantly thinking about my characters makes me more than happy. I work on art related to some of the D&D stuff. Like, I've done a lot of art for the stream we're doing on Kisser's channel. And then my girlfriend and I, we are terrible about just doing random tangents of our characters for the heck of it. And it's just, if we're in the mood for it, we just start doing some type of little mini session with characters and in what if scenarios. So all of those things kind of give me my fix. Now, before I started dating my girlfriend, I would do like Erica and play by myself. I was, again, before I started dating my girlfriend, doing Horde of Dragon Queen on my own, because I've never gotten to play through it entirely or run it entirely. I've always gotten to like chapter 4 or 5, and then the campaign just dies for one reason or another. So I was running through that, and that was really fun to just go through it and play. Also, a while back, I found a online DM thing that had all these predetermined stuff that could happen and dungeons. For the life of me, I cannot find that website now. But I also did that. Miniature painting, when I have time, do that as well. And that is another great way to get that fix. Those are some of the ways I deal with it. Sparks, what about you? How do you get your fix?
I watch a lot of actual plays and live plays. I watch a lot of Dimension 20. Like, whenever like we have like our spouts, I'll watch because right now I'm watching Junior Year, obviously, because that's their new one that's come out. But I'll like go and watch their little like one-offs, like seasons that they've done that are like not even like 10 episodes maybe. But I enjoy watching people play because I like seeing the way that people play. I feel like it kind of helps me learn different ways of how to use how to use spells in like more interesting ways, how to I kind of use it as like a learning opportunity. How can I make myself better in playing? You watch other people and then you practice in your room while you're working, and you sound very weird. If somebody walked into your house or apartment, you would sound like you're a crazy person. But that's kind of how I get a lot of my fixes with that. I also like to shop, and I like to shop with my eyes. My wallet doesn't like me to shop. It smacks my hand away from that checkout button. But I'll look at like a lot of D&D stuff like online, and I'll like look at dice, and I'll look at books, and I'll look at things for characters like minis, and I'm like, to be nice to have. And then my hand is like, no. But my main thing though is watching like people play, and you find out about new systems that way too. Like, that's how I found out about the Good Society. It's like a Jane Austen, like, I can't say the word because then this video would be super demonetized, but it's very see you next Tuesday kind of game. It's that, like, they like on Dimension 20 they mixed it with 5th edition, and it was really fun to see all the things that they like mixed together. Learn that just because you may have that 6th level and you may need to cast counterspell, you might as well cast it at 3rd level and roll to try to counterspell the spell than than that, somebody got blew the fuck up on Twitter about it was Abria when she was on Critical Role when they were doing
Yeah.
Exandria, and she casted Counterspell at 3rd level, and people were like, why did you not upcast it? You had the spell slot. And she was like, why would I not save that for a high damage spell that when you upcast you get a lot more damage than wasting it on like a 7th level counter spell? So you kind of learn, I kind of feel like with those you kind of learn different ways, like you get a different way of thinking about how you play your characters and how other people play them, and kind of you can kind of steal kind of some of their ideas. So I don't know, that's what I do. It might be weird that I like watching people play, but I also like the stories that they tell too. So it's another form of entertainment. And also I watch a lot of
weird. I mean, there's millions of people who watch live plays. I'd say you're definitely in the majority with that. I'm weird because I don't like watching them.
Yeah, I'm not huge on watching a lot of them or listening to a lot of them. There are a couple that I've enjoyed. Like I like Ox Venture and I like Dungeons and Daddies. But it's not weird to like them. It's just,
I think just the way that I like, the reason I watch them is why I think it's weird, because I don't just watch them for the story and the people that's on it. Like, it's like I watch it to learn more, to see how they're playing their characters, and not just for the story.
It's weird because I do the same thing with Dungeon Masters. Like,
yeah.
I feel like, I mean, the only ones I've ever watched is Critical Role, because that was how I got my fix. You talk about getting your D&D fix by not playing D&D. When I didn't have a D&D group, I used to watch Acquisitions Incorporated back in the day when it was like, Chris Perkins was their dungeon master, and it was only something that they did at like live shows. And that was before Critical Role. And then Critical Role came to be, and I found them, and it was like, okay, so I can get my D&D fixed by watching them. And that was what I did for a long time until I became brave enough to go to a game store, because I was scared to go to a game store and play with strangers.
Anybody else going to talk about getting their fix?
I think that's all I have. Anybody else? You all good? We
think,
don't have to roll the die.
Yeah.
We just got one left.
All right, so that'd be my topic. So, what makes a world feel immersive? So, for me, I like a world where the players have options. They're not railroaded on one track. They can choose to go to X, Y, and Z place and do different things. And if the players mention wanting to do something, even if you didn't plan for it, if it's reasonable and would exist, make it exist. So as an example, I have a player that said, well, I want to go look at a pawn shop. And I'm like, I didn't prepare for a pawn shop. Okay. So I was like, I was watching The Strain at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna make my pawn shop be like Satrakian's pawn shop. And that's exactly what I did, and down to having an NPC Satrakian there. That wasn't originally in it. It was just a fun little thing. But just on the fly adding stuff like that can make the world feel more immersive. It can make it feel like there's actual real things in the world. Having your NPCs actually act like people can also help. So again, as an example, in the first part of the campaign, I introduced the players to a lot of the shopkeepers that were in their main hub, and they all had different personalities. They were all different types of people that the players could talk with and interact with and do what they wanted. Things like that can make the world feel more immersive. And you don't need your encounters either to be all bandits, and it doesn't need to be all fights. You can literally just have your players meet other travelers along the road. I've done that. I usually roll to see if they'll get an encounter. And if that encounter is a role-play encounter or a combat encounter. And they've just met NPCs along the road. They met a traveling potion merchant. They met just a couple of other adventurers. They've met random guild members. And obviously they've also dealt with bandits and other things. I've had world events go on, like the assassination of the king, that they could have investigated, and they've gone to festivals and other things. Those are some things that I've done to make my world feel more immersive. What are your opinions? I'm going to throw it to Erica first, because she is also a primary DM, and I am really curious to see how she makes her world immersive.
We talked about weather. I believe in weather. I hardcore do. I brought this up with Richard. He works for Fate of the Norns. They're really good guys. If you ever go to a con, you stop by their booth. Fate of the Norns is an awesome Viking system, and they have good people who work for Andrew and them. But we were talking about, we talked about weather and how important weather was. And he was like, oh my God, it's so important. And we had this whole discussion, and Sparks was standing there. And I was like, see, I told you, weather is important. Use weather.
And I said, I did not make fun of the fact that your topic was weather. Literally, just the topic said weather, and that was it. No other explanation in the topic. It was just one word, and it was weather.
I mean, that is all you need.
I believe one way to make your world feel immersive is weather. Because, you know, if it's been raining and they're tracking something, then when they roll, you as a dungeon master should describe that. Say you're in the forest, right? You can see that the bear tracks are in the mud, and the bear's weight is like evenly distributed, and there's a blood trail or whatever. It tells you that the bear is hurt because there's blood. The weight is evenly distributed, so it's hobbling, stuff like that. You know, I think descriptions are a big part of it. You know, when you go to a town, when you approach a town and I tell you that, you know, the walls are mostly made of wood, the houses are mostly made of wood, and they're of a smaller size. Well, then you know that most of the races here are going to be halflings, gnomes, goblins, something that is size-wise, like proportion-wise, a medium standard human is going to maybe hit their head when they go through a door frame, or even have to duck down, right, to in this house. I think thinking about stuff like that, making the places that they encounter unique makes your world immersive. I think hinting at stuff that's going on, and like if it's like, oh, there's a festival that's happening, but if the players don't interact with this festival, they hear people talking about it. What happened at the festival when they were in town, like if they were in a bar or whatever it is, and it still happens without them. There is no like the festival. Oh yeah, there was going to be a festival that day. We should go. And it's like, then they just go. No, the festival's over. You missed it, Mary. You didn't go. It happens without you. And I think the players knowing that if they hear a rumor of something and then it unfolds without them and they didn't interact with it, but they see the consequences of it, or they hear other people talking about what happened there, that makes your world feel more alive. I like to use terrain because I'm a terrain junkie, and miniatures and maps for my encounters. I feel like for some people, they have a hard time imagining a place in their mind's eye. And so I think that can make your world more, it takes it to... I can
very much relate to that.
Yeah, like if you are someone who needs visual aids, and you have players who need visual aids, like we've been playing in Dragonheim, our DM will be like, this is the art for this monster, or this is the art for this clock tower, or he'll send us like a screenshot of like something to do
An area
doesn't-
in Drakenheim.
an area
yeah.
Dragonheim. There's nothing squirrely involved with it. It just setting the giving you a visual, like, okay, so that's what the dungeon dudes wanted this to look like.
Yeah.
I think that helps. Some people use character art. I know that I use that for my characters. Like, because I can't really draw people. I can barely draw like dungeon maps. So I'll go on like Google and I'll just like type in like elf, male, blonde, and I'll just scroll and see if I can find a piece of art of a character that I'm like, oh yeah, that's what Reginald looks like, and I just kind of like show it to people at the table, versus just having a description. So that's, I think, having NPCs, we've talked about that before, like how to make your NPCs interesting. I think doing that and having the NPCs to where they do have personalities and they are unique. But I think one big thing is consequences. You know, like if you break the law, you should go to jail.
Yep.
Not talking in game, like not reward stuff, but like if your players do something in town and they shouldn't have done it, then the guards come for them and they should answer for their crimes.
Yeah.
If you just let, or they get faced with like, you killed a random person when y'all were slinging spells in this place and that was my daughter and I'm here to duel you, like,
Get a
make them
nemesis.
answer for their choices. And some people don't like that, but I feel like I like to give my players ethical decisions. And it's like, y'all can go and choose to save the world, or you can go and you can choose to save these small people, and other people will choose to save the world if that's where you want to go. Like, we did that in my last campaign. It was like, there was this thing that was happening that would invade, would affect the realm, the material plane, or y'all can go and take down this crime organization that is involved in sex slavery. And that doesn't sound like, saving the world heroes. They chose saving the world heroes. Other people who are more powerful than the players could have taken care of that. It would have gotten settled with or without them. But those people that were smaller, right? It was very much that.
Did we not end up? We ended up tasking somebody else with that, didn't we? Because I thought we turned it over.
Y'all did. But that's what I'm saying. Y'all gave it to someone else to handle.
Yeah.
And you chose the hero route, like the big hero route, right? Because that was something that we have talked about before as like a group. We had talked about like, a lot of times it comes down to saving the world. And I was like, well, maybe I give you two choices. If y'all want to save the world, you can. Or you can save people, just normal everyday people that something awful has happened to them, and y'all chose the hero route.
I think some people chose the hero route. I would have been fine taking down the crime organization because I don't really like that kind of stuff. But I think it was a majority. Everybody was like, hero.
In sex slavery is something that most people wouldn't put in their games because I understand that it is something that is like a safety tools topic. And we went over all that stuff.
Nothing got graphic. We just nothing got graphic in it. It was just like it was there. We saw some things, and
we were all adults. We knew what
kind of
thing. But
and again, Erica, you did pretty much go over like, I need to know if anybody has an issue with me getting graphic with this.
Yeah.
And I say graphic, but that's not exactly it.
It wasn't graphic. Yeah.
No, it was more of like we knew. And it's just one of those things that like I like to give players the option. Like you're talking about open world, like I gave them the ability to like, if y'all want to go there and y'all want to do this, you can. Hell, I gave them the option to become pirates if they wanted to. Nobody took it. We had one player who was dying to take it, which got overruled. I think doing and that does
they became space pirates.
y'all did become space pirates for a hot second. Yeah, they went to space, and it's one of those things that it does require prep, because it's like, cool, we're gonna take the world option versus becoming pirates or going and taking down this crime organization that is established all over the world. I think that if you're a new DM and you don't have the time or really care to craft all of that, that's fine. I enjoy doing all of that because
You don't have that. There are great, lovely things called modules.
exactly.
Yep,
Yes,
that's
I
true.
just can't run them well. That's why I don't run them. I know that about myself. I can't run them well.
Yeah.
I just can't. I don't though. There's names. I can't remember all of it. I usually bend and break every dungeon that I run. It's never ran the way it is in the book. And some people don't like that. And it's just because I don't have I'm like, oh, I think this would be funner. And I just do something different.
I'm the same as you, Erica. Every time I've tried to run a module, I've always changed it pretty extensively.
The only time I've ran anything true to form was at GaryCon this year. I ran the Moat House from Temple of Elemental Evil, and it is a very well known part of the adventure. And I didn't want to mess with it because it is something that is people hold like dear, and a lot of people, that was like the first time they ever played D&D as an adventure. That's what they played. And so I was like, okay, this I'm going to run pretty close to what's in this book. But I did change some things. But they seemed to like what I changed. So it worked out. Sparks, what do you think?
I will say for world immersion, coming more from a player standpoint, is having your character immersed into the world is something that I feel like helps with player immersion, because if you create your character and when you work with your DM, it kind of goes back to like, you have like certain areas in your world, things happen. Well, like, I feel like having your like players kind of help create that can help with the world immersion a lot. I feel like we've talked about this in a previous episode before. But like whenever it was for Erica's game, we built an entire town. Like my character was from a town we built. Like it was already there, but I helped build it. I gave it more characteristics. I gave it more character, I guess. So that had a place in my character's heart, her homeland. So I think having that makes it more immersive, makes the world feel more immersive whenever that character has a place in the world that's been built by the DM. Building your character around something in the world also kind of helps with that. Terrain helps me a lot. The visual aids, as like what we talked about, not being able to imagine things. It's me. Hi. So
Problem, it's you.
hi, it's me. I'm the problem.
You're not a problem. Everybody thinks differently, and there's no wrong or right. It's just whatever
It's a
helps
joke.
you.
Okay.
No,
Erica doesn't get the joke.
she does not.
Erica doesn't get the joke.
It's
It's
well,
okay.
I'm just saying.
It's
I'm just
okay.
saying.
No. Yeah, but it's just one of those like having like specific things. I know whenever we would play, Erica would play music. She would have sounds, like if we would go into a forest, it'd be a forest sounds. Our DM for Dragonheim, hi Trevor, does the same thing. They have like a specific playlist that's for Dragonheim, and he'll play it, and it kind of gets you into that like, because like we all three are in that command. It feels like that playlist is very somber and kind of sad and desolate. It's like, whew, it's depression heavy. But it works so well for the area. So like you get that in your mind. So I think having like things that are kind of like that where you why are you laughing so much?
I'm laughing because you're like, it's so depressing. It's so dark and depressing. I'm just like, I imagine like
Because it
it's
is.
just. I mean, it is.
I can't imagine Drakenheim not being depressing.
Exactly.
No, it's just like if somebody ever asked you like what you thought of Dragonheim, you're like, it's depressing as fuck.
But it's
Like,
great.
It's
so much
great.
fun. Depression.
Depression.
No, I kind of those are kind of like my things is, you know, having your character integrated into the world, having them have a purpose like of, you know, why they're in this world. They have a family. They, you know, however you want to do it. And then having those visual and audio like aids, I feel like works very well. That's what I got.
I do think like because I know I spoke from like a DM's perspective. I know as a player perspective, I think one thing that does make the world more immersive for me when I'm trying to play is a DM that will role play with me.
Yes.
I agree with that.
I
As a
cannot
player-
believe the roleplay person of the that did not say, my God.
Because like, and this is not a knock. It's everybody DMs differently, and there's no wrong or right way to do it. It's just your style is your style. But I have run across DMs where I try to talk to them in my character to get information, and they just like pick the book up, stick it in front of their face, and they're like, well, it says right here on this page that this is the information you get. And I'm like, I'm trying to talk to the NPC, question them, you know, have a conversation with the character. And it's like, well, it says here that this is the information they give you. And I'm just like, can you put the book down and just talk to me? Like, it's just
Like
back
take
and
that
forth.
information and
Play tennis with me here.
yeah.
Oh.
Like
I-
it's still the
and,
information they give you,
It's
but
how
they
you present
just
it.
present
Yeah, because I understand completely because I have a kind of the opposite issue. Sometimes I'll have players ask me questions as the you know as the player, and depending on the question, I'll be like, you don't know, because you asked me as the player, and your character is not. asking
Fox is
someone-
like method over
Well,
here.
It just depends. Again, so as an example, my girlfriend is in the campaign I'm running, and she'll ask me sometimes like about a situation. I'm like, you don't know. That is my answer. You do not know. Now, if their character asks an NPC, that NPC will respond in kind of this is the answer, or the NPC will tell you, I don't know. And you're absolutely correct. That does enhance immersion because as a player, I enjoyed that because I've had DMs where I would ask and they would roleplay it out with me. And that feels so much more satisfying than just the book says this.
Just like Sparks, I have a question for you because I don't know if I'm alone in this. Do you just kind of want Fox to get married? That way, whenever she talks about Kim, she says my wife, and we can go, my
My wife.
wife on the podcast.
My
Because
wife.
every time she says my girlfriend, I'm like, my wife.
My wife.
That's
sorry.
that's a lot of years down the line. if
I
it
know.
ever happens.
I'm just not to put that pressure on
I
you.
mean, we
It's just
could
like,
just still do it.
Oh
we
My
could still do it. We
wife.
could just start saying my wife every
My
time you say
wife.
my girlfriend.
oh my gosh.
I'm
This is
sorry.
lawyer for the
I guess I
I'm
could
podcast.
stuck
just
in-
start. I guess I
I'm
could
stuck
just
in the
start
early
saying
2000s.
Kim.
I can't help it. It's
Oh,
the
wow.
older millennial in me.
I'm gonna
Play
mess with
D&D
her
by
about
yourself.
that now.
Oh yeah,
Play D&D with yourself. What?
yeah.
Don't
Play
be afraid
D&D
to
with
play
yourself.
with yourself, guys.
Yeah,
Play with yourself.
When really, if you want to play with yourself, one really good adventure that you could try is in the Call of Cthulhu starters box set. There's a solo adventure that helps you learn how to play the system. That's a really good one because it is kind of like choose your own adventure style, and you get into a situation in a town and basically see if you can get.
So takeaways from today: play with yourself, make your world immersive, and be conceited and think about your own characters all the time.
Or you can think about other people's characters, and
Oh yeah.
sometimes I think about one character in particular and how she hurt Reginald, and how if she continues to hurt people in the party and Cat dies because of it, how he will respond.
Hi,
to her.
it's me. I'm the problem. It's me,
just
and that's where
saying.
we're ending tonight. No.
Because at one point you did damage Cat, and it took everything in Reginald not to come over there in werewolf form and like some damage my woman.
Oh, and on the same spectrum, man, there are so many times that I was like, oh, if Kat knew about that, she would not be happy. But you keep your stuff a secret, you sneaky little shyster.
Yeah. That's the takeaway. Sparks is a sneaky little shyster.
Sparks is
That
chaotic, neutral in every situation. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Hey travelers, Sparks here. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Dice and Dish. We really hope that you enjoyed it and that you leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're over there watching it. And also subscribe to whatever podcast network that you are listening to on, so that way you get updates whenever a new episode comes out. We are super excited that next episode, so on May 24th, we will actually be starting a new series here on Dice and Dish, and that is going to be our Dice and Dish one-shots that we are going to be doing. So part 1 of our 5th edition one-shot ran by the lovely Foxfire will be out on that day, and we're super excited to put it out. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you later. Bye.